Okay, I'm live. Hey guys, I hope this finds you well. Oh, testing, testing. Hey guys, all right. I hope this finds you well. This is going to be brief. Hopefully, I don't know. We'll see. This message is called When God Tells You No. Okay, I got notebooks full of information. When I spend time, which we're doing 3 months, this is what we're doing. 3 hours a day with God. We're doing this every single day, as much as you can, minimum, of course. And I recommend using Chris Garcia in the morning just to kind of get a routine established. And I was just, had not had as much time as I wanted. I went to a conference, I'd come back, I'm either checking into an Airbnb and it's late, and I had to go the next day, so I don't have a full day to recoup, or I got other things going on. So I just wanted to like have a minute here and just one on one. You feel me? One on one. So I want to talk to you guys about what happens when. Let me take this off for the glare. When we are told no, when God says don't do that, and we do it anyway. I told you guys about somebody I was dating. God said don't date this person. God said don't talk to this friend. She wants to be a friend, but don't get close to her. God says there may be destruction, involved in the other person. God says various things. What has God told you? What has God said to you lately that you knew, okay, I was probably not in the most obedient of spaces. Now, I have a very drastic example. I moved 3 times in 1 week. hmm You heard me right, 3 times in 1 week. And this was when God told me to leave. I was like, leave where? I mean, sometimes it takes me a minute to get clear on what exactly God is saying, because if God says don't go to that land, you need more time to spend with God so he can explain what he just told you. What land? So then you're like, do I need to read the book of Genesis, or do I need to read Exodus? It was like, what do I need to read so I can understand what you're telling me? It's a process, it's an unfolding. So I'm learning. And this has been quite challenging. I wanted to move into a different space. The house I was going to move into was just, I mean, it makes sense how much it was ridiculously cheap. But knew I was completely not obeying God, because God told me, do not go into that house. It is dirty and it has mold. So I'm like, what house are you talking about? Because sometimes you don't really be telling me stuff until 3 months ahead of time. Like, are you talking about this house, or which one? So it's hard because my heart likes it. My soul likes the idea of it. I like paying cheap, not having to pay every single day for an Airbnb, or not knowing what's going on. I like the idea of kind of always coming back to a fixed place. I like that. Sometimes I like that it would just be my place for 1 month and 2 months or 3 months or whatever, and it's just me. Like, when you get back from the airport, or you go and you've been traveling, and they say you get into the taxi, or you put in your Uber application where you're going to, and you're like, I'm going here. It feels good, right? Instead of checking, oh my gosh, I don't know. Booking says this is a good place, but the prices are good. But then when you get there, you're like, this really place should have been $15, not 75. This place should have been, only $35, not 250. It starts being like questionable about some of these things. So I want to just really harp this in, and I don't like to use myself as an example. I was literally talking to God and myself on my way back from a late night walk. And I said, God, this makes no sense. I mean, I just don't understand why you got me out here like this. It's not like God has me out here. I was disobedient. I could have saved myself 2 days if I was obedient and just understood not to go in the house. So the house had this smell. And every time I'm on a precipice of something, a choice, I usually fall into the Ray Dalio kind of mindset. And there was another person, Greg. I went to a business conference, and he has almost the same mindset as a Ray Dalio for um, a process in which to make choices. And removing yourself out of it and always documenting why you make choices the way you do. So that way, it's like it's not usually putting any emotion into it or anything like that. It's I made this choice because this happened. And so because we work in the spirits realm, it's hard to reason. It's hard to uh, make anything quite logical out of things that is spiritual. It's so hard to make anything logical out of things that are spiritual. So I have to go through this because it's a change. Although you see me always making changes, going here, going there, like it may have happened for you overnight in your eyes, but it was a thought process. It usually starts as me like starting to journal. Okay, God told me to do this, and I obey, and sometimes it happens immediately, and I'm like, okay, is this what you mean? There is an interrogation process usually. Okay, God, so like now or and usually, if I'm not interrogating, if I'm not asking God, like, what, bro, like, it's your daughter, I got a question, then it becomes more of being in a space of circumstances that don't work out very well. The circumstances that you're just like, well, another wall, another wall, another wall, another wall. Now, how about I went and paid for internet? Okay, I went and paid for internet service at this stop at this spot, and I ended up giving the owner his keys back to the house. He gave it to me yesterday. The moment I arrived to the place, I also hired people to give me the most advanced fiber optic internet. And I was like, this is going to be great. This is swell. I felt so happy leaving where I was. I just felt like it was a brand new start. And then I only ran into something else. So I don't know, guys. I just want to say we want to stay in a place of obedience. Obedience is key. When God says no, he means don't no. He means no. So I will definitely come back on, and I have a whole list of stuff that God has said no about. And let me just read that to you now. I was going to like divide these up to more digestible smaller chunks instead of me just going at it for 40 minutes and you just, getting all of this love. Hey, getting all this love. So I'm exhausted, but if I really think about it, today is the first day that I've had to rest without the interruption of somebody else, the interruption of a cleaning crew, the interruption of, I don't know, but I was supposed to rest, but I woke up with a raging migraine headache. And I said, well, where did this come from? I was trying to find my Aleve and I couldn't find it. I was walking around all over the place in the middle of the night. My head was just like, wow. And I realized since I had been at a conference, this is the first time I'm having some time to actually rest. So, wow, I'm just also kind of going at it. I don't want to share too much. I feel like I've already said a lot, right? I woke up with a headache. I said like I have feel like I've shared so much. I'm moving and still I'm not sure what the situation is. I feel like I've said a lot. So I want to just remind you, please, in this in things are about to change for us, as a body of Christ. Things are going to, there's a lot of spiritual advancements and things like this are that are happening. So I want you guys, please listen to God. If Holy Spirit says don't do it, listen. What happens if you don't do it is it becomes worse, especially if you're answering, you hear the voice of God, and you know that if you don't do it, it's going to cause you pain. Doing it causes joy. There is just, I cannot say I talked about there's moments where I'm not happy, but I have joy, right? And there are so many moments where I have so much joy because God, I made a YouTube video before called Have I Not Granted You the Desires of Your Heart Thus Far? Like, I have traveled so much. God has truly blessed me. I have not really been in a situation where I was miserable or uh, down, just I've been happy pretty much, because I've had so much joy. Generally speaking, I'm just happy. There are some moments where I'm unhappy because this is normal. You feel sad sometimes. But I, generally speaking, have been very happy. So, with that said, please obey God. If not, the situation does get worse. And that's where the anxiety comes from. And in there, there's a twist, right? There's a moment where it just begins to become unnecessary mental warfare when we don't listen. And what I mean by this is, I was I was just, going about my, and the mental games began to happen. This happened before. I saw a house and I was like, the people pleaser inside starts coming out, and it's like, well, maybe I could just wait. Well, he did clean the house, so just to help me. And well, I guess I could maybe sort of kind of just go with it and know that inside I just need to speak up and say something. Trust me, even for the bold, even for the bold, even as a bold individual, I'm bold, but I still have there's an inner conversation that happens before I even begin to speak about everything else. I'm just like, okay, well, there's a lot that happens mentally. And I feel that when I don't listen, when God says, don't stay in this house, well, what am I going to do? Where should I go? I don't want to, I want to love God and be obedient and honor what He said. I shared with you guys that precision is everything this, this quarter, this season. So, in this quarter of your life, whenever you're listening, whenever you're tuning in, God needs your obedience, and He needs this when it comes to you, precision. You need to be precise about the next things that He's asking us to do or you to do. And sometimes not everything is known. But I want to go back to the mental turmoil when God said no. So the first time, there was somebody I was dating, and I really liked him, but I just kept feeling, no, I don't think so. This one is no. But he's we can just see where things are going. But I just felt that his pool of spirituality was not deep. His intellectual pool was not that deep. His ability to kind of be very daring or adventurous was not that deep. And so I was like, how can you have something deep with somebody that like really doesn't feel that deep? You can't. So I was confused because I really felt like he could have been a nice person. I even got a vision. God gave me a vision of this man, and I just like he had completely changed in this vision. And wow, what a leader in this vision. So, let me just back off for a minute and but that's not how things work. Like, it does feel like it was better for me to have just left him alone, because the whole time I was back and forth, and I should have been very focused, but I'm like, well, maybe God wants to bring us back together. Maybe uh maybe I could be more love. It was just a mess. This God said leave him alone. God said leave him alone. And so this was during this time. I mean, it was a really confusing period for me, because I was like brand new, born again. So I'm like, okay, we can't really be engaging in a lot of worldly stuff. Like, this guy is kind of, I don't know. I mean, he has one beer, but you shouldn't be drinking. Like, so what did the housing look like? God said leave, and it was one disaster after the other. Life will be disastrous if you don't obey. If God says no, don't stay here. God said no to Seattle. I tried. I ended up leaving out of the house I was in. That was a blessing at first, because of horrible situation. Um, I started getting roommates, and it was just terrible. It was like literally, it was over. It was just time. It was time up. I knew exactly that God called me by a different name. He called me forgiven. He called me beloved. He called me. I said, "Well, this place ain't it, honey. This ain't it." So I had to dip up out of there. And the second house, I was there for about a week, and the woman, I think, didn't like. She heard my voice and she thought I was Caucasian. I explained I was first generation American. She said, "Oh, I thought you were Caucasian." Then she turned on a camera, because I actually got really sick. This is the only time I was sick in years, and I couldn't, like, I had a cough so bad, and my head and everything. It was just like not the time. And it was starting to get snowy and weird in Seattle. And it was just cold. I mean, if you've ever been into the Pacific Northwest, your whole bones are shaking. That's how bad it is. Your whole bones are just like, I couldn't handle it. So it's important for me to listen. That just made it worse. The woman's racism was kind of, So then she ended up moving me to her other residence. And it was below a building, and it was a really nice place, but the sheets were from somebody else. I think they were all Chinese people before that. And I'm like, the person must have been so skinny, but smelly. Okay, just, ugh. The girl who was also downstairs, she just told me she just committed suicide, so attempted to, and I wanted to help her, but God is saying, I need you to go. This was before COVID happened. So I'm like, okay, I'm not saying anything. I'm consecrating myself. And I was feeling like if I just had done one or two things right, let me just walk around. Maybe there was something more to the city or the Pearson, or that I was supposed to do or be or have or experience. And that, it wasn't the case. So every time usually you're on a growth, you're on a precipice, or you're just being flat outright disobedient. I went to a conference and I felt it. I was being disobedient by going to this comedy show. And then later on, I also felt that I was just in a space. Last year, I was so, like, I hate to use this word, but let's be honest, it's where I was. I was so desperate for somebody to kind of like yank me out to be around other like-minded business people, because I was doing it alone, and I was living in San Cristobal de las Casas in Chiapas, and it was all fake wannabe hippies, okay? People who are walking around barefoot when there's Mayan homeless children asking for money. I mean, you could afford shoes. Don't be insulting. Don't be insulting. So, anyways, I digress. I was so in a space of wanting to be there. What did it feel like? It felt like, why is this guy cursing? Why do it caused me more damage being there? I left with a good rubric of character, like how to a worldly advice on how to manage different people in which sections or categories they should be in if they're not part of your inner team, where they should go. So that helped, and a personal questionnaire. And I met some famous people. So that was nice, but I can't say that I left that much different. I made a whole bunch of connections. I made some good ones, but I don't know. The guy was cursing a lot, and he swears to G. I made that video before, how I stopped taking advice from a unicorn, business advice, a unicorn, a unicorn in business, a twice unicorn, should I say. And while they're valid points, I'm just not that place anymore. So this time, the mental anguish, this also happened before God told me to leave a co living space. He said, leave now. I said, but God. And he told me, I'm going to start revealing to you who this person is. When I made the choice to pack up and go, the guy was dropping JC. He was using Jesus' name in vain and just in a card game, like it was funny. And I was like, oh my gosh. I began to leave, and then he asked me, well, so what did he was almost accused me of stealing. So I was like, whoa, God, you told me, like, I that was what the first time the burden of prayer hit me. I just was usually pray in the shower, and then just this hit me. God bless my enemies, bless my enemies, bless my enemies. And then, okay, I should have shaken the dust off of my feet once I left, like it says in the book of Matthew. If people do not receive you, shake off the dust of your feet so the judgment will come to them. Because anybody who receives you receives Jesus, and anyone who receives Jesus receives him that sent him, which is God. So it was a lot. This time it was mental anguish. I literally went to the mall. I said, well, maybe I should go to the mall. Maybe I should call this or that. Well, let me, I'm not sure. And it's a lot of back and forth, and it's exhausting. It's mental exhaustion. Not to mention, I arrived to this Airbnb at like 10 o'clock at night, 10:30. So I didn't really have a whole lot of time to sleep. uh Checkout is soon, so I'm like, okay, I just need to get some rest. It took me a while to get to sleep because you're in a new place, right? And this morning I was like, okay, I had a headache, so I don't know. The guy didn't show. It was a lot. Then it was mental anguish of almost worry and like, what should I do? And thinking the worst. And I said, no, that spirit's got to go. I said, no. And I literally rebuked that. I said, I will not do that. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise will continually be in my mouth. I will bless the Lord at all times. Even when I'm worried, I will bless the Lord because He knows the plans that He has for me. They are to prosper me. They're to plans to see me do good, not for evil. So I want to share that with you because if you start going through the stewing, right? If you're calling, you got your prayer lines on your phone on speed dial. You got your Discord apps. So everybody who's in the healing room or the prayer room can come and help you. You got your little your lineup of people on YouTube when it's time to come and pray. And it doesn't take away from the fact that you still have your own personal processing to go through. Okay. As somebody who's neurodivergent, it's so like I have to have my own processing agents as well. So I want to let you know that obedience comes from it comes from even the smallest steps of just saying yes, okay, God, I will. That is where a lot of the obedience comes from. But the mental warfare I was going through, hi, my gosh, okay, my gosh, oh my gosh. Just staying obedient, like really, that's the thing that helps me the most. It was the thing that helps me the most. So don't disregard the process that you have to go through if it's even just stressing you out. Calm, come to a calm and just remember, you know what? God knows the plans He has for me. And He told me no because He knows better. I wish that weren't the case, but I'm going to follow Him. Now, I wish this wasn't the case. I wish the internet was not the case. I had super fast. I was like, okay, this is my plan. I'm going to do this and this and this. I'm going to follow the advice the last business conference I was at last week, and this is my formula. But things are changing, so even though that's what somebody else may have recommended, it's also making sure that things fit me like a glove. It fits me to understand, okay, this is how I'm going to move forward. This is what God told me to do. This is what a business person told me. This is a person who's also a believer and they said to do this. But right now, I got to be about my daddy's business. I hope you all are too. God bless you. I look like I feel gorgeous and tired. And so I'm going to go rest. I will see you guys in the morning. God bless you and take care. Please listen to the voice, listen to Holy Spirit.